I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That one and we got it? Yeah.
Motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Did you guys have a chance to read the minutes? So moved by Eddie. Okay, we got to come back for him. Everybody keep
Good morning-ish, boards. Wish you good luck in your meeting today. I just want to encourage you all to come out this Thursday to help welcome the new mascot at 11 a.m. in the amphitheater area. It's going to be a wonderful event. Please speak up as student leaders in your classrooms and invite all kinds of students out. Let them know that this is really going to be an engaging event. In addition, February 19th, please mark this on your calendars. It's going to be our third Spirit Day. It's really where we're going to make a lot of noise outside. The drum line will be out there. Really trying to engage students at Cerritos College and let them know that there is student life here and that we do have pride, we do take pride in being a Falcon, and that day is going to be something where we showcase that. And as being a part of AACC, being a part of this wonderful branch of government, it's an opportunity and a responsibility for you to fulfill as an individual. So please convey that message to your clubs and to any other individuals who are seeking to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, President. With that, we move to communications. Advisors report.
Yeah, good morning, Falcons. I'm handing around a student affairs, actually student activities update. Handed out yesterday, cabinet, we handed out to Senate. A few things to draw your attention to. The student activities is now hiring clerks. The student activity clerks, the applications are available already. We will hire 4 student activity clerks. The deadline to apply is February 19th. There was a question last week in Senate about how much was in the reserves. I got a report from Fiscal Services that you have over $1 million in your reserves. I also talked with the Commissioner on Budget and Finance to seek out a new bank because we are being charged bank fees and we budget for that every year in our budget. So that's something that we're working on as well. There was also a question from the, back to the $1 million, I'm sorry. Some of that money may be earmarked already, so the Constitution and Bylaws Task Force is going to be very important to make sure they find any legislation that promises some of that $1 million. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll have more information about that, if some of that money is promised for certain areas. The Leadership Conference, a question at Senate about the Leadership Conference, went over budget by $22,000. So I showed the different funding sources for that activity, so you can see where that money came from. And we also are expecting a refund from the Catamaran Hotel of over $5,000, which will help reduce the cost of that. The mascot unveiling is Thursday, February 5th at 11 a.m. Come out and show your support. And the club paperwork deadline is February 12th. Those are my updates. Thank you.
With that, we move to Chief Justice report. Just very briefly, today we have student government, the election board, but not everybody's here, so just take that in consideration, please. Secondly, I'm taking an online class about party retreat procedures, because I want to get that, and I'm learning a lot, so I'll be bringing you more information on what I'm learning. Did everybody do the application deadline for houses for the university? Because I know most of you, if not all of you, are transferring this year, right? Okay. Everybody's okay with the classes? Because I was going to add another 3 units today. Other than that, I went to Senate meeting. It's pretty interesting. Some of you were there. I would really encourage you to go to the board meetings as well. And that's it. Do I have any member reports, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, I just want to commend everybody on their, I know how hard it is, the semester, and I like to commend you guys on being dedicated and showing up on time. In a few Senate reports, a few Senate meetings ago, I do remember Hugo Gonzalez brought up an interesting point that I think maybe we should think about trying to talk to the right people about. But he brought up the fact that the conditions in the modular classrooms, just south of here, the conditions in there aren't very conducive to learning. The acoustics in there are not very well. If you don't get a seat that's close to the front, the acoustics in the back, you just pretty much can't hear the professor too well. The lighting in there, it's not very appropriate also. And so if you're in the back and you're trying to see the projector, it's very hard to see. And then on top of that, it's really focused in, and the teacher always writes off screen. And I'm taking trigonometry, and I know there's a lot of trigonometry classes in these modular classrooms. It's not an easy subject, so it's something I think maybe we should think about talking to the correct people to address appropriately. But it's an interesting point that was brought up, and I think that's something that maybe it would be helpful for us to talk to. The other point I'd like to make was that I went to the cabinet meeting yesterday, and it was I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about it pretty soon, but we're going to be talking about the March in March, and I just wanted you guys to know that's something I'm really interested in. And, I'm hoping you guys might be able to join me in going. I've already requested to go. That's something I feel that maybe the court could make a strong presence and a good impact, seeing how we are a major part of the judicial branch here. So yeah, that's my report.
Thank you, Eddie. Anybody else that would like to share what's going on with campus? Okay, with that, move to item 7A, student government notation. 5 minutes. This will be presented by Anita La Rosa and Diana Arana from Senate. It's a legislation concerning the addition of AUCC student government institutions. You have 5 minutes, Eddie, but you guys can move to extend.
How do I move this document onto there?
Drag it.
Drag it.
Good morning, Court.
Good morning.
But basically with the student notation transcript, what we want to do is we want to acknowledge all those AECC participants in government. So for example, you guys, Senate, sorry, etc. So what this transcript is going to do,
What we want the transcript notation to do, we want it to really reflect your guys' ability and your background that you've already demonstrated here at school. So for example, if you were say the commissioner of budget and finance, later on down the road, you're going to be searching a career that has something to do with money, accounting. You now can bring a piece of paper where you're not only being recognized for those services that you provided, but you're also being recognized by your school for the kind of service that you provided. So it might be able to just narrow down your abilities, and also to just recognize your, some of these hours that we put into this. This is the legislation that we've drafted together. It's not a JL, it's actually a JR. It stands for Joint Recommendation. You want to read it?
yeah. So whereas the Fall 2014 General Assembly SSCCC approved Resolution 15.02, which stipulated that the Student Senate for California Community College advocate for the addition to the student transcripts who have completed a full term, as defined by the governing body in question across the entire community college. Whereas the Cerritos Community College recognizes student involvement in Theta Kappa on their students' transcripts. So on the first one, I went to the SSCCC and then they approved to support this, to bring it onto the state. So we wanted to include that in our legislation. And then I know that Pete, you're a member, so.
Yeah, so I'm a member of Phi Theta Kappa, and on our transcripts, as long as we bring our member ID or our member ID number to admissions and records, they'll add a line of text to the end of our transcripts that says that we were a Phi Theta Kappa member. And that's just basically, that we're the only ones that as far as I know, that are recognized that way, because we're an honor society.
So for the resolve, that the ASCC student government make the recommendation that Cerritos College implement the student government recognition in the student transcripts for students involved in their local associated student organization. That's a typo, sorry. Resolve. So this is how the transcript notation will look like. As you can see on the top, it says student government and then position. So for example, me as a senator, it would be student government senator. And then Chief Justice, etc.
Student government trustee,
Yeah.
you know, and so on. So resolve that the transcript notation be implemented as follows. Student government, and then in the bracket, you would insert your position in there. Placement of notation is to be placed after every academic semester that the student is active. One line after the president's/dean's list if applicable. The student activities coordinator will provide student government participation. The student must serve a full term as defined by the ASCC student manual. The student government transcript notation resolved that the student government transcript notation be effective starting fall 2014. So we really want the students that are going to be transferring this year to take advantage of this, and to be able to we can hopefully, we want to implement this so that we start giving you credit for your services as of fall of 2014. So yeah, that's the resolution that was drafted. Is there any questions?
Okay, we're not just about a minute and a half. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions?
Can you explain the history of the Phi Beta Kappa and why they're only the ones? I don't understand it's an honor society, so I'm thinking they're an academic club, so they have, you know, more clout and respect amongst us. So
Well, we're an international honor society, so we're not just limited to this campus. We're actually have a headquarters that we report to. That's number one. And to go even further back in history, originally we did have this before. Student government notation was on there, and it was taken off sometime in the 80s. And the reason that it was taken off was because there was all the clubs wanted the recognition. So for example, if you were part of the photography club, the photography club would then request their involvement to be notated on the transcripts. And what that did, it created a problem in creating too many lines of text, and really it kind of just made it monotonous, you know. What we really want to do is we want to narrow it down so that, you know, it's not open to all clubs, you know, just those student government that are involved. But originally, yeah, we did have it for all clubs, and the reason it was taken off is because it was apparently too many lines of text for admissions to be inserted. And the way we did it, so that it doesn't have all the text at the end. That's why we're trying to figure out a way that it's not going to all be piled up at the end. So it's not just a page that gets looked at and thrown away. We want it to be a part of your transcript. So that's why we chose to try and locate it after the dean's list or the president's list, if applicable.
Time has expired. Motion on the floor. Second. Second by Amber. So there's no objection. I'd like to accept time for 1 minute. See now, we expect time for 1 more minute. Any other questions?
So the only problem with that.
I do usually do that when I'm doing my
The only problem with that would be the JL, right? For now, for the joint resolution has to say. I can address that.
So it's not joint legislation; it's a joint recommendation. Originally, and I forgot to post it on the court one. the cabinet voted yesterday for a joint recommendation. Because it's not going to, a joint recommendation is something that the AC cannot implement by themselves. That makes sense? So we make the recommendation to the person who does, or the department that does, make that implementation of whatever that we're asking for. So this is simply just a recommendation to them on behalf of student government.
Any other question?
Well, speaking as a student, as a trustee, that way I can address some concerns that I see with this. And I think it's self-serving for an organization to reward itself when I feel that there are other clubs on campus too that could be awarded this recognition for their participation on campus. So I feel that, what do they think that about, they're rewarding themselves for the achievement that we've done when they're other campus. I mean, there are other clubs on campus that do participate and do bring, although they learn qualities and skills, and those skills that, also they could add on the resume rather than transcripts of their campus and see that they've been part of, they're major like photography. There's a club on photography and they're majoring in photography. I mean, the campus would like to know that they were involved in the photography club.
Well, me speaking as a student myself, I'm an architecture major, and there's nothing that's going to speak more for me than my portfolio. As far as my involvement in student government, there's nothing in my portfolio that's going to reflect my involvement in student government. There's nothing there's nothing that I can do other than include it in my admission statement, which we all are. We all work hard here. Me as a student, if I wasn't involved in student government, I would be able to go home with these other members that are part of clubs. I might not be here on Fridays, and I'm sure that there's other club members, but you know what? Some of these student government members, we put in extra hours, we go above and beyond, we go to these conferences, and that's something that we're not trying to commend, maybe just recognize, so that say that you receive your paper, and a potential employer could receive the paper and say, you know what, this person also has potential leadership skills. So what we really want to do is just recognize the leadership qualities that are being brought to the ASCC. For us to be able to recognize absolutely everyone, that'd be a whole other issue within itself.
Okay. Thank you. With that time has expired, and that's been a motion on the floor to resolution. Seeing none, do I have a motion on the floor in regards to the item?
Move to make a stance in favor of JR 1400.
So the motion is to take a stance in favor of Senate Bill.
Well, this isn't his recommendation. I mean, he's presenting the recommendation. So, I mean, in this instance, so just so it's clear, all this is a stance of support on behalf of the court, because the court technically doesn't get a technical vote on the joint recommendation. So it's just literally a stance of support.
Okay, so is that clear for you guys? Or are we just taking the motion before you is to take a stance in favor or in support of the resolution or the recommendation? So, okay, so the motion before you is to take a stance of support in favor of JL 14-001. I'm going to do a roll call. So, time, is that yes or no? Victor?
Yes.
And I'm going to say yes. Okay, with that, you can take Thank you, Mark. Okay, with that, we move to new item, new business, 7B, election board. Elections. Board shall nominate and vote on members for the election board for 2015 presidential and trustee elections. T that, not all the members of the board. I don't know if you guys want to take that into consideration, it's up to you. Go ahead.
I move to table item, postpone item 7B until next week's agenda.
Do I have a second? Second by Victor, moved by Eddie, second by Victor. So if there's no objection, I'd like to move item 7B for next week's agenda. See that not all our members of our court are present. With that, we move item 7B to next week's agenda. Moving on, we move to item 7C, online voting. Board to discuss online voting. I think the limit on it, I'm doing research. I don't have the response from the company that I contacted, and I don't know if it's the same because ACC had already done the homework. I don't know if Dr. Contreras would, if you have anything at all that you would like to add it to. I'm doing my own research to see if we can implement it this semester, but I don't have specific quotes from the company.
Okay, just to provide context, last year after the, I think it's April elections, 2014, I encouraged staff to start examining different online or electronic voting options. There was some concern brought forward for this upcoming election about the number of booths that are available for trustees. I think that's a conversation that we had in court last week. So for long-term solutions, one of the things that AACC is going to pursue, at least get more information about at this time, is looking at different options out there. And I know over the summer, AJ and Cynthia found 2 different companies that do that sort of polling or elections for universities, but we still don't have any quotes or any amount that would come forward as a request to Senate. But it is something that now Alejandro is working on. But the whole point is to try to have other options where people are able to vote and to relieve some of the time-intensive, labor-intensive strategies that we have now, where we hire election clerks to come in and do the actual physical counting of the ballots. There are ways, and there are other institutions that do electronic voting. So we're just exploring it as an option, as hopes of increasing the number of students who actually vote. But in the end, it'll be up to the students to decide if this is something that you want to pursue. I think it's very optimistic to see if we can do it for April. Actually, I don't think it'll happen. There's not enough time to discuss it and to get it through. But it is something you should consider as a budget request perhaps for next year, or even a Senate topic for next year.
Thank you, Dr. Contreras. As far as what there's a lot of systems out there, and it's pretty confusing. There, you could do it different ways. You could do it where you could do it from the house. You could have stations come in, or you could do it from the phone. So I'm trying. I need to sit down with Dr. Contreras and I guess narrow down what kind of for the budget, what kind of for them to give us a quote, I need to be specific with what we want, first of all. So that's what we want to do. It is an open conversation. We're not voting on anything. So if you guys have any questions right now or any recommendations or anything.
Could we maybe keep looking into this and then maybe talk about it some more next week? Next week's agenda.
So the motion for you is to postpone item 7C, online voting, for next week's agenda. Do I have a second? Second by Andrew. So if there's no objection, I'd like to move item 7C, online voting, for next week's agenda. See none? We move item 7C next week's agenda. Next, moving on, 7D, group project. Board shall discuss the possibility to work on a charity project as a group. I really believe in charity. I love doing it personally, and I was just thinking that maybe we could start planning something. It doesn't have to be immediate. It doesn't have to be towards finals either, because then everybody's super hectic. But perhaps I could hear recommendations from you guys or ideas or what we would do as a group, and perhaps invite other members of the student government or just do it as a board. Either way, I would be extremely floor is yours.
So, when we talk about charity, do you come and donate stuff or just a volunteer?
It's open to whatever you guys, we have to mutually agree on something, it's just, I'm not.
Could I suggest something? I did some volunteer work at a women's shelter in Whittier before and we actually, through Phi Theta Kappa, we ran a donation. We had a donation drive to try and just, you could donate anything, just hygiene stuff, clothes, children's books. It's, you know, it's a women's home, so the items that you could donate there, they'll take anything. Or the other, that's if you want to donate. The other option is if you would like to volunteer and maybe offer some of your services. That house is still being developed. It could always, it's a huge property. It's about 2 or 3 acres of land. And I mean, they could always use some help just pushing away, mowing, you know, picking up a couple leaves here and there. You know, that's something that I'm pretty sure would be a strong bonding activity for all of us. You know, that might offer a good, you know, and you feel good going home at the end of the day, you know, knowing where your work went, what your work went into. So if you guys are interested in something like that, and maybe trying to continue to help me continue to help this location, we can definitely think of something like that. It's just depending on whatever it is you guys want to do, what it is you want to organize. Either way, donations or services are welcome there.
Andrew, any idea that you would like to perhaps do or anything in mind that you might have? Beach cleanup? That's another option.
There's a lot of time to do it.
I would love to.
We usually just go down to where the palms are there. So we go all the tracks around rocks and stuff like that. It's actually really good. We want to do it more local right now, so we get this pretty here.
Tam, any activity in particular that would like to do outside? You've done a couple of favorite, right? Which one's your favorite?
And we go to volunteer at both of them, so we donate something first and then we will do some volunteer and then we'll come to the other.
Okay, so do both, like collect something and then give it something. Wow. That's tough. For me, I don't mind. I done most of them. One that really changed me was really going to the, I don't know if I have it correctly, with the elderly people there. And you go and you spend time with them. You just pretty much, you give them like desserts, or like the old ladies like to have their nails, you know, nail polish, or like the guys want to, you can help them comb their hair. You don't have to do anything like the nurses do. Just spend time with them. And I found it extremely rewarding more than anything else, but it was also heartbreaking. Some of them cry, they don't want you to go. They don't want more time. But it's, we could decide, it doesn't have to be an item on the agenda. We could decide outside because it's not relevant to me. I just wanted to bring it to the table and see what do you guys think. See that the other members are not here all the time, but we need to take them into consideration.
Also that like about the highway thing. Not just for the schools. Not just for the schools, but also for the schools.
Like write this resolution, you can actually, we can write legislation and, but Senate has to pass it. We can't just mandate the next court to do it. We have to write the legislation and take it to Senate for them to approve it and add it to the bylaws. For them to do a charity project every year, that's what you're saying? Like make it sort of mandatory? Tradition? Yeah, that could be also done. For it to be mandatory, we have to get the bylaws. But yeah, we can start a tradition of something. Any other? Okay, with that, we move to item 8, announcement. Senate meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Try to come, it's pretty interesting. Cabinet meeting is next Monday at 2 p.m. Club info day, we're gonna be out there tomorrow from 10 to 1 and 5 to 7. It's cut out, but yeah, it's cut out. And also the next day, club info day, February 5th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And in the same day, we're gonna have the unveiling of the mascot, right? At the same time of club info day?
Yeah, 11 o'clock on Thursday.
Okay. Is it will be on the same area? or-
Yeah, on the stage. I'm sorry, on the outside amphitheater, on that stage. That's where we're gonna do the unveiling.
Which outside?
The
Oh,
hill?
where the DJ
Yeah.
set? Oh, okay, so it's gonna be all one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other announcements for the sheriff team or anything?
I do have an announcement. We don't have to report that tomorrow, but we are taking, and I think Eddie brought it up earlier, we're taking sign-ups for the March and March. For those of you who are interested, it's first come, first served basis. It's March 2nd. It is a day when we have schools, so you can communicate that to your professors. Yesterday, cabinet attended 12, and we can take a max of 25. So if you're interested in going to March and March, which is just a day of advocacy at the steps of the Capitol, then please see me after the meeting, and then we can have you sign up.
Quick question. What date is it?
March 2nd?
Like what?
Monday.
Monday, I'm sorry, Monday, March 2nd. Yeah. So we would leave Monday that morning, very early in the morning. We would leave, and we would come back, yeah, same day. That's the only way that's cost efficient. Or else it'd be too much money.
That's the recommendation I'm putting forward to Senate. They're going to discuss it tomorrow. Hopefully it's a long agenda. But it's a way to save money. Before, they would drive a bus up last year, and you would have a hotel room and stay the night. The way I did it at my previous institution is we flew up in the morning, like 6 a.m., and you fly back around 8 or 9 p.m. That way you can participate in the rally and still make appointments with your elected officials and have time to come back. And then in that would be money for food, and time with the chaperone who's going with you to attend. And also what we'll do is provide you with training on how to meet with the elected officials, and it should be a pretty good event. But the cost savings would be about $2,000 by flying, and we'll be able to take an additional 7 people.
For this year? Is it that for sure? I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Where is it?
In Sacramento. Yeah. And right now, I mean, the reason it's kind of time sensitive, the flights are under $100 right now. The longer you wait, those flights will get more expensive. So that's why the date was just announced for March and March, so we're trying to move on it.
Uber cheap. It's uber cheap right now.
$100.
Southwest
Round trip.
Southwest has a promotion right now
Yeah.
that it's going to expire in the next couple of days. And then we got the Uber. Sorry?
I think the flight, the last I saw was 93 round trip. And last year they sent, I believe, 17 or 19 students, and the cost was around $7,000. If we do the flights, we take 25 students, it'll be under $6,000.
So we have to pay that. So like at home.
No, Senate would approve all of that, and there'll be no cost to the student come out of ACC.
So if you're interested in doing it or you have more questions, see me after.
I hope it. I will advocate. Is the legislation in for tomorrow?
Well, it's up for discussion and possible action. It's really up to the Senate how they want to.